Hi friends, I am Pastor Rachel Fetters and I am continuing our Lenten devotionals. I am still reading from the book Silent Voices, Sacred Lives. This is a collection of scripture and early Christian writings. Today's selection comes from Galatians chapter 4, verses 24 through chapter 5, verse 1. Paul draws on the figures of the matriarchs, Sarah and Hagar, to illustrate his concept of freedom. At the same time, he reinforces both patriarchal oppression of the rejected woman and the woman's collusion in such oppression. Not a bad meditation for Lent. I do have a blog post about this story that he's referencing. So if you are interested in that, then go ahead and head over to my blog. So this is what Paul writes. Now this is an allegory. These women are two covenants. One woman, in fact, is Hagar from Mount Sinai, bearing children for slavery. Now Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia and corresponds to the present Jerusalem, for she is in slavery with her children. But the other woman corresponds to Jerusalem above. She is free, and she is our mother. For it was written, "Rejoice, you childless one, you who bear no children. Burst into song and shout, you who endure no birth pains. For the children of the desolate woman are more numerous than the children of the one who is married." Now you, my friends, are children of the promise like Isaac. But just as at the time the child who was born according to the flesh persecuted the children born according to the Spirit, so it is now. But what does the scripture say? Drive out the slave and her child, for the child of a slave will not share the inheritance with the child of the free woman. So then, friends, we are children, not of the slave, but of the free woman. For freedom Christ has set us free. Stand firm, therefore, and do not submit again to your yoke of slavery. This passage is one of those passages that when we encounter it, it is problematic. What Paul is referencing here, the children of Hagar would be who we see now oftentimes is people who are Muslim, or they sort of hearken their lineage back to the same father, Abraham, that the Israelites would have, that modern practitioners of Judaism do, and we as Christians also do, all to the same person, Abraham. Hagar was the slave of Sarah, who she gave to Abraham to have a baby on her behalf. And Hagar is successful in this matter. And Sarah gets jealous. And Sarah, after she is blessed with her promised child, Isaac, sort of rejects, well, she doesn't sort of, she does. She rejects Hagar and her son, who would have been in his teens at the time, and sends them into the desert. She tells Abraham to send them into the desert. And we're told that Abraham is sort of distraught by this because he'd always seen Ishmael, who is the child of Hagar, and Abraham as his son. We're told in Scripture that Ishmael was circumcised alongside Abraham, and so he would have been in the same covenant. We're also told that Hagar is given her own covenant with God, where she's promised that this her child Ishmael will not be subject to his brothers. So he will live independently and successfully, is what the scripture's saying. So when Paul is looking sort of retroactively at this account from Genesis, he's looking that way as someone who would have been of the lineage of Isaac. So the people who were of the lineage of Ishmael, he would have seen as other and as sort of lesser, not as part of the covenant. But that's not necessarily what we're told in Scripture. And this is a really good reflection for us to do, especially as Christians, because just like Paul, who has made such massive impact in our faith and in spreading the faith and in revelations from Christ and his work for God, we also make mistakes. And the whole point of salvation is that you can make mistakes and you can be humble when you do make those mistakes. But we should be aware and active of our own biases and prejudices so that we aren't hurting others in our mistakes. Just like Paul says, there's no longer Jew or Greek, female or male. It's really interesting to hold sort of this type of writing where he's looking backwards and saying, well, we are not of them. But he's also saying at the same time that it doesn't matter who you are, that you can be saved by Christ. So yeah, this is one of those that's kind of hard to digest. And it's a good invitation to reflection on our own prejudices and our own held biases. And it should be a reminder that we all make mistakes. And that's sort of the purpose of salvation, is that we can be humble in those and work to correct them. So I do hope that this reading is a blessing on your week.